You're too white, Daytona, you know.
Hello?
Five, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Uh-huh.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Mm-hmm.
Joining us tonight, I'm Gino Lamont.
And I'm Sarah Sanchez. Fire crews continue to battle massive fires burning in northern and central California. 1.4 million acres have burned and 7 people have died. Nearly 1,300 homes or other buildings have been destroyed. Crews are getting an upper hand today as the weather cooperates. Significant progress has been made on the CZU Lightning Complex fire. The details on those fires you can see on your screen. It's now up to 17% containment. Among the more than 12,000 firefighters battling fires in Northern California, members from the Palm Springs Fire Department, they sent out a strike team. Our Kitty Alvarado spoke with one of the battalion chiefs leading the team. She's live now from Fire Station 33 in Palm Desert. Kitty.
The That's right, and this battalion chief I've spoke with tells me he has nearly 40 years of firefighting experience, but he says this fire is unlike anything he's ever seen because of the amount of fuel burning. He says fire can come at you from any direction, but he's mostly just in awe of its size.
Among the more than 12,000 firefighters waging war against the massive fires burning out of control in Northern California are some of Palm Springs' bravest. They're on the SCU Lightning Complex fire.
When they put us in morning briefing on one side of the fire, it's a 2-hour drive. And then when the next day, when they tell you to go to a different side of the fire, it's another 2-hour drive. So this it's unreal how big this thing is.
This battalion chief, who does not want to be identified, is a strike team leader trainee. He says being a leader on a fire like this one carries extra weight.
The first 2 days we were on the line almost solid for 48 hours. And I don't think I could shut my eyes. There was too much responsibility to make sure everybody was okay.
He says everywhere they walk, they're knee-deep in dried grasses, and that's what's making this fire tough to control.
A fast-moving, fuel-driven fire that does not want to stop. The typical cliches about us, it sounds like a train coming and all that stuff. It's all true. And it's scary sometimes.
And the remote area makes it tough to access.
We're driving around in these big city fire engines back on these ranch roads. Sometimes we don't exactly fit, so we're using chainsaws to cut the trees.
In the 8 days they've been there, they've done and seen it all.
We've found explosives at one and had to tag that off.
He says getting to meet the people they've helped is rewarding.
The homeowners were just so relieved that somebody was there.
And they'll be there as long as they're needed, but can't wait to get home to their families.
I had just taken apart my son's scooter and we repainted it. And then I left on this fire. So I feel so bad for that. But when I get home, I'm going to get that squared away.
And just to give you an idea just how big this fire is, Governor Newsom says the size of the fire, the size of the amount of land that the fire has burned is nearly the size of the Grand Canyon. And just to give you another idea of just how big it is and how many are fighting it, nearly every firefighter is either on the front lines of a fire or filling in for a firefighter on those front lines. So we give a lot of love to all of our firefighters and Godspeed to all of those on the front lines. Reporting live from Palm Desert, Kitty Alvarado, back to you in the studio.
All right, thank you, Kitty. California fire crews are asking for all the help they can get. Teams from 7 different states are already on their way. Crews from Utah and Texas, even as far away as Australia, are expected to arrive over the next couple of weeks to hopefully give our crews here in California a little bit of relief.
We know the fires are bad, but this satellite image from NASA gives you an idea of just how bad. This is smoke over the state of California. Almost the entire state covered in smoke. The only exception being our little pocket here in the Coachella Valley. You can clearly see the Salton Sea there to our east. This is drone video from Bonnie Doon. It looks like a moonscape. You might remember Mike Everett showing us a picture last week from a camera on top of a communications tower looking down at the ground with the fires surrounding that tower. Well, yeah, this is the aftermath of that. Very little is untouched by the fire near Santa Cruz. And we're taking a live look now from our Agua Caliente Casino cam. Facing west from Rancho Mirage. We're going to send things over now to NBC Palm Springs Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett, who has a look at the conditions. Mike.
Sarah, I do, but before we do that, let's go back and take a look at that photo. This is the exact image that we got from one of the PG&E cameras in a place called Bonnie Doon that Sarah was just telling you about. That is near Santa Cruz. Normally, these cameras are pointing out towards the horizon, but they were able to point it straight down, and this is the view that they saw. Just terrifying stuff there, and a lot of property and a lot of lives really changed by that. Here's what's happening in the big picture here. We were talking about this during the last half hour, during 5 o'clock, just how pervasive and how many fires. Over 300 major fires burning in northern and central California. That smoke continuing to move off towards Idaho. But some good news here. By the way, while we're talking about it, the SCU and the LNU both have the potential to become the largest fires in history. They're currently ranked number 2 and number 3. The Mendocino fire is the #1 ranked one. And of course, the Thomas fire is currently the #4. That was just 3 years ago for us here in Southern California. So here's the good news is the ridge of high pressure that's been keeping us hot and keeping us humid is still in place. You can see that clockwise flow over top of the Four Corners region, basically where it was this time yesterday, but it's losing its moisture potential. And what that's doing is making it so that it's just not so unstable, especially up towards Northern California, where we were tracking storms yesterday. In fact, we're looking at one in the far northeastern corner right now. But we had so much instability in this region, and that gave us the potential for more of that lightning. In fact, as we take a look up there right now, not seeing a whole lot of that at all, and that is some very good news. All the lightning that we're seeing is well off towards our east. A couple of pockets there just up in the northeastern corner there. We'll continue to monitor that. The other thing that's going on here is the watches and warnings are less severe than they were yesterday. You remember yesterday, this map was just filled with color. Now, we still have a red flag warning in place up towards the northeastern corner of the state there. We still have smoke advisories in place for the Central Valley and then off towards Idaho and parts of Washington, even into Oregon as well, as that smoke continues to move from the southwest to the northeast there and really pollute that air there. Speaking of which, let me just back up real quick. There is something I do need to let you know about. I'm sure you already realize that today, that we are under an excessive heat warning. That kicked in earlier today, will be in place until Thursday night. Temperatures getting into record territory today. We'll talk about that coming up in the full forecast. 117 is where we topped out today, tying the old record for today's date. Currently 115 out there, but a couple of things I'm really encouraged by. First of all, we're getting that diurnal wind for the second day in a row, giving us some lovely ventilation. Sustained winds coming in the low 20s, gusts up to about 30 tonight. Fully welcome. 11% humidity is about half of what it was this time yesterday. That's moving in the right direction. And the next 3 days are moving in the right direction as well. 115 on Wednesday, 113 on Thursday, 111 on Friday. You know what that means. It's setting us up for a really good looking weekend. Details and your full forecast minutes away.
Well, you may have received an email this morning about a new ballot tracking tool. The California Secretary of State office has a new tool so you can make sure your vote is counted. Our Daytona Everett is live now from our Satellite News Center to show us how it all works. Daytona, please explain.
Sarah, it's kind of like tracking your pizza, but in this case, you're tracking your ballot through every single stage. And they say the setup takes only 3 minutes, so we put it to the test. This year,
I don't like this mail-in ballot deal.
Amid concerns over the financially strained post office, some voters are wondering, will my vote actually count, or will it get lost in the process? California Secretary of State Alex Padilla says California has a plan.
With more people voting by mail this time than I think at any point in time in our nation's history, we thought it'd be a great tool to give voters the confidence they deserve to have in the vote by mail process.
It's called Where's My Ballot? We tried it out and timed it. Here's how it works. Type in your information, choose where you want your updates, text, email, or a phone call. You can even choose limited notification hours. And that's it. Less than a minute, and our information was updated. Now we get notifications when the ballot is mailed, received, and counted. But just like a lot of things involving technology, there have been a couple of glitches. After the office of the California Secretary of State sent out an email about the tool on Tuesday morning, a number of people reported the link was broken. In response, the office said it was aware that some voters are having intermittent issues reaching the site, likely due to heavy traffic.
We have since increased capacity to handle a much bigger volume. So if you tried to sign up to Where's My Ballot earlier today and weren't successful, you can go ahead and try again and sign up to receive those very important messages.
So voters can have confidence this year their ballot counts. Now, just a couple things to remember when you're voting. When you're done filling out your ballot, make sure you sign the back of the ballot before you put it in to be mailed away. Also, if you don't want to trust the post office and you just want to kind of sidestep that, you can drop off your ballots at any of the polling locations or any drop-off locations around the county as well. Reporting live from NBC Palm Springs, I'm Daytona Everett.
Here's a quick check of our latest COVID-19 numbers from Riverside County and for us here in the Coachella Valley. 456 new cases reported countywide, 97 of those in the desert, 6 new deaths in the county, but none from the Coachella Valley.
The county will now offer financial assistance for people impacted by the pandemic. The Board of Supervisors approved $4 million for low-income residents. It will help with things from job training to home placement assistance. People can either qualify for an 8-week or 12-week program.
In tonight's You Ask, We Investigate report, a Palm Springs man's been waiting for months for his first unemployment payment, and he's getting no answers from the state. He says he's now owed more than $10,000, and this week the agency announced they need more funding to handle the influx of new claims. Olivia Sandusky investigated and joins us now with the latest. Olivia.
Gino, there is a lot of frustration right now, but experts say the best advice they can give is to just keep calling the EDD. Unfortunately, many payments are still being processed, and the wait time is impacting our community.
They tell me keep checking the site, and I check it every day.
For 3.5 months, John Barris' unemployment payment status has been pending.
I filed for unemployment as an independent contractor when I was able to. Immediately got accepted, and they moved me up to the full amount of the $450 a week.
John received checks for 2 weeks, but that stopped in mid-May when he was told there was a mistake on one of his forms. After quickly making the corrections, the payments never returned.
And I tried every day to contact them, and the number nobody would answer.
Page 3, call center data.
In a state assembly meeting on Monday, the Employment Development Department director says 60% of calls go unanswered due to volume.
That's why I want to continue to add resources, and I would like to go way beyond where we were pre-pandemic.
The agency is working through a backlog of more than 1 million claims, but the director says their system is decades out of date.
We've been struggling, admittedly, with reporting because of our old antiquated systems. So I'm eager to, we've already had some good conversation and a fresh look at how to report.
Now people like John are turning to their local assembly members.
EDD did give us a liaison within their office to work on, and that liaison has been able to clear some of the backlog. If you have not been able to reach out to EDD, then give our office a call. And let's see if we can do what we can do to help you.
But with over $14,000 still pending, John says he can't afford to wait.
I don't want to get to a point of being in a foreclosure on my home, and I'm doing everything I can to work, but yet, we're in an economy that's just unprecedented.
Says the call center is on pace to have almost 4,000 employees in January to help process all of those claims faster. That number is up from 350 members pre-pandemic. Olivia Sandusky, NBC Palm Springs.
And remember, if you have a story you would like us to look into, you can always email us, news@NBCPalmSprings.com. You ask, we investigate.
Felony and misdemeanor charges have been filed against the man accused of being involved in a standoff with police on Friday. Bruce Lombardi of Palm Springs will be arraigned tomorrow. The incident began as a domestic violence call that turned into a 5-hour standoff with police.
College of the Desert's website and other web services have been down since Sunday because of a malware attack. Officials don't believe any personal information was stolen. COD classes begin virtually next week, and there's no time frame for web services to be restored.
Well, Social Security could run out in 3 years. When we come back, the Social Security Administration has a look at what President Trump's campaign promise could mean for the future of aging Americans.
And Airbnb has a strict new rule against house parties, and it's not all talk. We'll take a look at where they're already implementing these new rules. And consumer confidence is falling, but home sales are skyrocketing. We'll take a look at where Americans are spending their money ahead.
More airline cuts as American Airlines says it'll lay off 19,000 employees in October. That's when the federal aid requiring the airlines to keep employees comes to an end. American says the coronavirus pandemic continues to devastate the travel industry. Americans currently employs more than 140,000 people.
Eliminating the payroll tax could deplete the Social Security Trust Fund within 3 years if there's no alternative source of revenue. That's according to the Social Security Administration. Democratic senators asked the agency to run the numbers after the president said he would terminate payroll taxes if he's reelected. Only Congress now could eliminate the payroll tax, and there's little support for it right now on either side of the aisle.
Americans may never head back to the office. There may be a permanent shift in favor of remote work even after the COVID-19 vaccine is in place. More than 2/3 of large companies' CEOs plan to downsize their office space. With less demand, real estate costs will go down for companies. They can also hire talent across the country and not just ones that, well, live near the office.
Americans are spending a little less for the second month in a row. Research organization released a consumer confidence index, which fell about 7 points from July to August. The decrease indicates shoppers are growing more pessimistic about the economic recovery.
However, the housing market would be the exception to that, as it is on fire right now. The Commerce Department releasing figures on new home sales. They jumped 14% in July after big increases in May and June. Sales are being fueled by historically low mortgage rates that haven't been seen in nearly 50 years.
You have a lot of people who decided in quarantine that they don't like their house, so they're moving. In a party house crackdown, Airbnb has removed more than 50 LA County properties from its site. The company says the homes were the subject of party complaints or were found to be in violation of company policy that bans house parties. The company has announced an indefinite ban on party homes. It's also limiting guests at only at any one listing to 16 people max.
Best Buy is shaking things up. About a quarter of its stores. Best Buy has identified 250 of its approximately 1,000 stores as online fulfillment hubs. These new hubs will specially handle a higher volume of packages, although all stores will continue to ship online orders. Best Buy says online sales skyrocketed more than 250% last quarter alone.
People are loving pandemic pizza. Papa John's says its North American sales are up 24% over the past 4 weeks. Domino's sales rose 16%, and sales jumped about the same percentage internationally.
All right, we'll be right back after the break, but first let's check in with Mike, who's over at the Big Green Wall. Mike.
Gino, got a gorgeous live look for you, courtesy of our Agua Caliente Casino Camp. Today was about what you didn't see. You did not see any cumulus over the mountains, and we didn't feel as much humidity as we have over the last week or 10 days. I'll tell you why, and I'll tell you how long it continues when we come back. Welcome back. Well, as we were talking about going into the commercial break, today was hot. We got into record territory. I can't sugarcoat that, but it was all about the lack of humidity today. In fact, it was about half what it was this time yesterday and moving in the right direction. And the temperatures are going to do that this weekend as well. Just a little bit more work to do. And we're going to get things normalized, and the timing couldn't be any better. It looks like it's going to hit right for the weekend. Here's what we're looking at in the big picture. And we were discussing this earlier, but we'll kind of expand on that a little bit. We'll have some updates for you on Laura coming up in the next half hour here. This is a major, powerful hurricane. Al Roker was telling you about it during Nightly News. I'll give you some updates coming up here. It's this ridge of high pressure. Remember, we've been able to identify this very clearly over the last couple of days because it's been sitting in the same spot. You got that clockwise flow basically right over top of the Four Corners region, kind of favoring Utah at this point. As it continues to move further south, it gets cut off from its moisture flow, and that's really important for a couple of reasons. We were talking about less instability in Northern California means less lightning. That's the good news there. And then for us, you'll notice that it will cut off that monsoonal flow. Now you can see along the spine of the Baja mountain range here, it will continue to come up, but it's just going to give us a miss off towards the east there, and that will keep our air relatively dry despite the fact that we are extremely hot. 117 is where we got to today, tying the old record from 1962. 105 is the 30-year average for this time of year. That's how hot it is. And 84 in the overnights is warm. There's still some moisture in the atmosphere, but again, remember this time last week we were rocking some low 90s and humidity that was sitting at about 20-25% at its minimum, so we're doing all right. Here's what we did today. Thermal and Palm Springs got into record territory. In fact, Thermal, we broke the record going back to 1996 by 1 degree there, tying the record at Palm Springs International. Yeah, we made some headlines today. Taking a look at the Futurecast here, this is Laura. It's expected to make landfall basically right in between New Orleans and Houston. I'll give you some updates, as I mentioned, coming up in the next half hour. We'll break that down in more detail, but what you see or don't see over top of us is that monsoonal moisture. You didn't see any afternoon storms in the mountains today. You won't over the next couple of days either. Temperatures are warm here. We're all in triple digits in the Coachella Valley. 105 in Desert Hot Springs, still 112 in Coachella. 106 out towards 29 Palms. Yucca Valley already in double digits. They're doing all right. 77 in Big Bear and some upper 80s in Idlewild. Winds tonight, they are welcome, but they are gusty, sustained in about the 21 to 23 mile an hour range along the I-10 corridor. That'll be with us through most of the evening, so it'll be a little bit of a nuisance, but it's some ventilation and it's coming in from the northwest. We'll absolutely take it and enjoy it. We get into double digits right around 11 o'clock tonight. We'll get ourselves into the low 90s by 2 a.m., setting us up for almost exactly the same start that we saw today, and temperatures still hot. We've still got that excessive heat warning in place until Thursday. 115's in Thousand Palms and Palm Springs, 116 in parts south, 105 in Joshua Tree, and then your Comfort Air 7-day forecast shows a massive decline. In fact, cooler every single day for the next 7 days. And look at that, 70s overnight, beginning again on Monday.
Coronavirus coverage brought to you by East Valley COVID-19 testing site, serving residents of eastern Coachella Valley.
A new study suggests asymptomatic cases of COVID-19 might be rare in children. Among 33,000 hospitalized children in this study, only 250 ended up testing positive for COVID-19. They found the regions with a higher rate of community transmission also had a higher rate of asymptomatic pediatric infections.
Doctors are strongly encouraging people to get their flu vaccine as early as possible this year. It's out of fear of what they're calling a twindemic, the flu and coronavirus pandemics happening at the same time. From October 1st of 2019 through April 4th of this year, the CDC estimates between 410 and 740,000 flu hospitalizations. You add that to the COVID hospitalizations, and it could create a potential storm for hospitals everywhere.
There is a concern. We've already seen reports of people getting both viruses, one after the other, or even simultaneously.
The flu vaccine is typically not mandated, but some schools and healthcare facilities across the U.S. are doing so this year. Dr. Schaffner says people should get started with those flu vaccines by mid-September to Halloween at the latest. Doctors want your vaccine to be able to last through March of next year. Coming up next, protests again across the U.S. after another police shooting of a black man, this time in Wisconsin. We'll have more after the break.
And we'll have an update on the tragic helicopter crash that killed Kobe Bryant. The company that owned the helicopter is now pointing fingers over who's to blame. And customs inspectors at LAX intercept a bizarre package from Russia. It wasn't drugs, it wasn't guns or explosives. It was actually something cute this time. The company that operated the helicopter involved in the crash that killed Kobe Bryant is fighting back against lawsuits. That company filed a lawsuit of its own. They say air traffic controllers are to blame for the crash. The suit says the crash was caused by, quote, a series of erroneous acts and or omissions by a pair of air traffic controllers.
Authorities are now asking for the public's help in identifying the man suspected of stealing a firefighter's wallet near Santa Cruz. The Santa Cruz County Sheriff's Office released this image. The suspect was caught on camera using stolen credit cards at a gas station in Capitola. Insurance is covering the firefighter's losses, but we would like to find this guy.
A California ski resort is vowing to remove a slur from its name. Squaw Valley Alpine Meadows will take out the word squaw from the company's name. The word is considered a racial and sexual slur against Native American women. The popular resort in Lake Tahoe said it made the decision after extensive research and outreach to Native American communities. The resort's new name will be announced in 2021.
SeaWorld San Diego will partially reopen later this week. On Friday, the park will open its doors to guests for what is called Zoo Days Bayside Barbecue Brews. Under the partial reopening, SeaWorld's outdoor areas will be open, but indoor areas and rides will remain closed. New health and safety regulations will be in place, including temperature checks and face covering requirements for all guests. Taking a live look now, courtesy of our Agua Caliente Casino cam, as we check in with NBC Palm Springs Chief Meteorologist Mike Everett. Hey, Mike.
Gino, today was an interesting day. It was hot. In fact, we got into record territory, but what you may have noticed was that the humidity was about half of what it was on Monday. So a little bit of a mixed bag there. Here's why that's happening for us is we've still got the massive ridge of high pressure basically in the same place that it was yesterday, but now it's shifted a little bit further to the east and a little bit further to the south. And so what it's doing is not pushing monsoonal moisture up from the south into the Coachella Valley. We did see some storms fire earlier this afternoon along the Baja Ridge there and off towards Arizona, but nothing here today. In fact, you didn't even see much in the way of those cumulus clouds over top of our local mountains, just because all of that is well off towards the east. So as they say, it was hot, but at least it was a dry heat. Taking a look at severe weather, we do have this excessive heat warning back in place. It's been upgraded from the watch that it was yesterday, and that is for the Coachella Valley down into Imperial Valley, even the parts of San Diego County. There's also a heat advisory in place for the Inland Empire. Temperatures will be over 100 degrees there for the next couple of days, but things moving in the right direction. I'll tell you about that in a moment. 117 is where we got to, tying the old record from 1962. Way above average. Temperatures were in the mid 80s in the overnights, but again, not the 90s that we were tracking this time last week. 77 is the 30-year average for this time of year. Record potential over the next couple of days really doesn't look all that impressive. Thermal could tie their record again tomorrow, but then we're going to be moving downward as we go towards the weekend. Currently 113 at Palm Springs International. A lovely north-northwesterly wind coming through tonight, giving us some ventilation and humidity down at 12%. Oh, so much better than yesterday. Next 3 days brought to you by Comfort Air. Shows 115, 113, 111, and that trend continues as we go into the weekend. In fact, I've got an overnight surprise for you coming up.
All right. Thank you, Mike. The governor of Wisconsin declares a state of emergency and is increasing the National Guard presence in Kenosha after a second night of protests over the police shooting of Jacob Blake became destructive. And Blake's family is now giving us new details about his injuries. Wendy Woolfolk has the story.
Another smoldering city, this time Kenosha, Wisconsin, as protesters clash with police and each other.
I noticed a lot of damage. It doesn't reflect my son or my family. Mom, you have to get back.
29-year-old Jacob Blake was unarmed when he was shot in the back while struggling with police on Sunday, leaving him paralyzed from the waist down.
It is going to take a miracle for Jacob Blake Jr. to ever walk again.
Witness video posted online sparking outrage.
They shot my son 7 times. 7 times.
Police releasing few details other than saying officers were responding to a domestic incident that involved a shooting. And the Justice Department has confirmed to NBC News that it will assist in the state investigation. Residents scared for the safety of their homes and livelihoods.
This is pathetic. This is pathetic to happen in our country.
A situation leaving an entire nation looking for change. Wendy Woolfolk, NBC News.
Coming up next in sports, Angels future Hall of Famer Albert Pujols etches his name in Major League Baseball history. We'll tell you what he did after the break.
Plus, we'll revisit today's top stories, including some local firefighters helping fight those Bay Area wildfires, plus new ballot tracking ahead of November's election. We'll have those stories when we come back.
Time now for check your NBC Palm Springs sports headlines. Angels first baseman Albert Pujols continues to climb the Major League Baseball record book. An RBI single last night, Pujols passed Alex Rodriguez for sole possession of second place in the league for career RBIs. He now has 2,087 runs batted in over his 20-year career. Hank Aaron still holds the top spot with 2,297 RBIs and 659 home runs. Albert Pujols is only one away from tying Willie Mays for fifth all-time on the home run list. Reigning NBA MVP Giannis, the guy from Milwaukee, is your 2020 NBA Defensive Player of the Year. The Greek Freak, as we prefer to call him, becomes just the fifth player in league history to earn both an MVP award and a Defensive Player of the Year in their careers. Giannis led the Bucks to the league's best defensive rating this year. He's also one of the three finalists for the MVP award as well. Arizona Cardinals safety Budda Baker is now the highest paid safety in league history. Baker has agreed to a 4-year contract extension worth $59 million. That's about $14.75 million a year. Last season, Baker recorded 147 tackles, including a league-leading 104 solo tackles. Baker was a Pro Bowl selection in 2 of his first 3 years in the league. And across the pond, Lionel Messi tells Barcelona he'd like to move after nearly 2 decades with the team. Messi, considered the second greatest soccer player of all time, you could send me your emails now, still has 1 year left on his contract. Barcelona says it wants Messi to finish out their career with the club. Messi reportedly cited a clause in his contract that would let him leave for free, but Barcelona says the deadline to enact that clause passed back in June. Final preparations are underway for the U.S. Open, which begins on Monday. Crews are busy at the USTA Billie Jean King National Tennis Center in New York, getting everything ready. The stadium courts will look a little different this year with no fans in attendance. This will also be the first U.S. Open to use Hawkeye Live technology to place in place of human line judges on the outside courts. The Arthur Ashe and Louis Armstrong Stadium courts will still use live judges. Several top players have withdrawn from this year's tournament because of coronavirus and some other concerns. All right, lots going on in sports. That's over now, so let's check with Mike because there's lots going on in weather too. Hey, Mike.
Plenty going on in weather. In fact, gorgeous out there right now. None of that bubbling cumulus that we've seen over the last few days because that monsoonal flow has been shut off. We're going to take a look at that, and we are tracking the tropics. It's becoming very active in the Gulf. Details when we come back. Welcome back. gorgeous live look courtesy of our Walter Clark cam. Again, it's really about what we didn't see today. We didn't see any smoke. We didn't see a whole lot of humidity. Today we got ourselves down to about 9-10% today. That's literally half of what it was yesterday. And a gorgeous pink sunset out there, starting to return closer to normal, aside from the fact that we were in record heat territory today. We're going to fix that this weekend as well. Let's take a look at what's happening in the big picture. We were talking about how the high really hasn't moved that much. It's just not pulling up as much southern moisture, especially that monsoonal stuff we've gotten used to. Now you can see some storms did fire along the spine of the Baja mountain range there, but they didn't walk up into our neck of the woods today. That was the big difference. The big story though is the Gulf. Marco and Laura creating a mess though. Marco is now post-tropical cyclone. Did bring some waves and some rain a little bit closer to New Orleans. Now as Laura moves in, I'm sure you saw on nightly news tonight, this has the potential to become a major hurricane. The difference between a major hurricane is actually that number right there. When you go from a category 2 to a category 3, 3, 4, and 5 are considered major hurricanes. There's a little bit of a discussion taking place right now as to whether or not it's going to achieve Cat 3 status. There is some dry air that could entrain into that system right as it makes landfall, and that would be very good. That would weaken it a little bit and bring it in as a Cat 2. Still a major powerful storm that we're tracking here. Basically set to split the goalpost between New Orleans and Houston, but if anything happens, it looks like that storm will track a little bit further off towards the west. That could be a major issue for Houston. Now as it makes landfall, it will get caught up in the jet stream, make a hard right, and move over top up the Mississippi River Valley and then eventually out into the Atlantic in about 120 hours. But the winds will be gusty for about 200 or 300 miles inland. Looks like landfall will be late on Wednesday night into Thursday morning. Those peak wind gusts well over 100 miles an hour in many spots there where you see that dark, deep purple there. And then storm surge. Again, New Orleans, not that big of a deal. Further west you go, though, 6 to 10 feet in some very low-lying areas there. It's going to be a major, major problem. We'll keep an eye on it. Putting Futurecast into motion, again, about another 24 to 48 hours before this thing makes landfall. You can see a very well-pronounced eye wall there as well. This is a serious storm. Here's what we got today. We were hot. We're still hot right now. 104 in Desert Hot Springs, 112 in Coachella. 95 in the Yucca Valley, some mid-70s in Big Bear. That gusty wind coming through in the low 20s with gusts up to 30 tonight. Ventilation coming from the northwest. We're perfectly okay with that. Temperatures break into the double digits at 11 o'clock tonight. We will start in the mid-80s tomorrow. We will warm to about 115. That's 2 degrees cooler than it was today. We'll take it. 115 at the airport, 116 in Indio, 105 in Joshua Tree, and some low 80s in Big Bear. Your Comfort Air 7-day forecast shows some very good news headed our way this weekend. In fact, if you look at those daytime temperatures, they go down every single day between now and next Tuesday. And look at Monday. Overnight, we're going to get ourselves back into the 70s.
In tonight's Showbiz Report, the New York Fashion Week is postponed to September 13th and 17th and will look totally different this year. The governor's office says Fashion Week will be held in strict compliance with New York State health and safety guidelines. This means outdoor events are capped at 50 people and indoor events will take place without spectators. Fashion Week will feature a mix of live and virtual fashion shows and presentations, including live streamed runway shows. And the cast of The West Wing is preparing a staged theatrical performance of a season 3 episode to air on HBO Max. And all the big names from the series will be there. Rob Lowe, Martin Sheen, Bradley Whitford, Allison Janney, just to name a few. The special will be shot in LA Theater in October, although an air date has not been set. It will be before the election. The reunion episode will benefit Michelle Obama's nonprofit, When We All Vote, which focuses on increasing voter participation. We'll have more after the break.
Among the more than 12,000 firefighters battling the massive fires burning out of control in Northern California are some of Palm Springs' bravest. They're on the SCU Lightning Complex fire. It's burned now more than 300,000 acres across 5 counties. It's now the second largest fire in state history. We spoke to a battalion chief who does not want to be identified, but he's a strike team leader trainee. He says being a leader on a fire like this carries extra weight.
The first 2 days we were on the line almost solid for 48 hours. And I don't think I could shut my eyes. There was too much responsibility to make sure everybody was okay.
He says everywhere they walk, they're knee deep in dry grass, and that's what's making this fire tough to control.
Thousands of people in the Coachella Valley are still waiting for their unemployment payments. Some tell us their attempts to contact the EDD have been unsuccessful. According to the Employment Development Director, because of the high volume of requests, about 60% of the calls to the agency go unanswered. Local Assembly member Chad Mays has advice for those who are still waiting to get their money.
EDD did give us a liaison within their office to work on, and that liaison has been able to clear some of the backlog. If you have not been able to reach out to EDD, then give our office a call, and let's see if we can do what we can do to help you.
The EDD director also says they hope to have almost 4,000 employees in their call center by January, which would speed up the process.
The California Secretary of State has created a tracking tool so you can make sure your ballot gets counted. It's called Where's My Ballot? You type in your information, choose where you want your updates, text, email, or a phone call. You can even choose limited notification hours. California Secretary of State Alex Padilla says even though there have been some glitches, he's confident it will help voters feel more comfortable about the voting process.
Every active registered voter will receive their ballot in the mail prior to the November election. And so signing up for Where's My Ballot will provide you the transparency and the clarity that you need to ensure that your ballot certainly got to the county on time and that it was counted.
Now, some important things to note when you are voting. Make sure to sign the back of your ballot. And if you're nervous about your vote not being counted because of the Postal Service, you can deliver your ballot to any drop box or voting location on Election Day.
So many of us have had to become creative to find a way to continue working during this pandemic. But local Rancho Mirage hairdresser Rebecca Alicorn just might win a prize for her enterprising solution to taking care of her clients during the shutdown. She's providing haircuts, a wash, even a blow dry. And the real silver lining? Well, she's donating 15% of all proceeds to local homeless organizations. So it's a huge win-win for all.
Tell me a little bit about how you came up with this great idea.
Yes. So I was in Santa Barbara the very first day that California announced that we could send our salon services outside. And like 99% of my industry that day, I felt defeated. I thought, how could I do this? So from 8 to 10 a.m. is when we're operating right now, because that's when our desert is beautiful. And we're set up in the back of our salon underneath a tarp with an outdoor air conditioner and a 42-inch fan. And we're just keeping all of that moisture away from us. We're using the fan to push away. So that's really helping us keep safe as well. And it helps us keep cool. We have an outdoor self-contained wash station. So we can rinse your hair and have that ready for your haircut. We use disposable capes, so it's one per person, sanitizing the chair, sanitizing our hands, keeping it as safe as possible.
And I know you're offering actually a special deal even. Yes. Not only is it a break for the customers, but you're giving back to the community.
Yes, we're doing $25 haircuts with 15% of every service going straight to homeless services. We did our first drop-off last Saturday and dropped off many pallets of water and granola bars. Behind the Elks Lodge is a homeless cooling center. So that's who the first people we donated to. It just sparked inside of my heart. This is why you're a hairdresser. It's really not about the beautiful styles, because all the great events that we go to aren't happening right now. It's really about being a day maker, and that's what I truly know I am in my heart. I make people's days better. And just putting my hand into that and spreading a little bit of positivity amongst the community has been great for myself and for everyone around me. I'm really blessed. I have a 15-year-old son that I've employed to set up the setup every morning and take it down. And that's even been a big help with him to have a purpose as well. So I tell everyone, if you have young children in your life, just bring them into your routine and help them have a purpose as well. We're all going through a hard time.
Yes, we are. But with this kind of resourceful, creative, and caring solution during the pandemic, we can all get through it together. For NBC Cares Silver Linings, I'm Sandy Newton.
Brighter Side of the News is brought to you by Holland RV, located off the I-10 at Washington.
Customs at LAX found 8 Pomeranian puppies smuggled into the country from Russia, or at least they were trying to smuggle them into the country. The 2 Russians arrived from Moscow via Mexico, and they said they had 4 dogs with them, but the CDC determined the dogs' medical history and the ages were forged. Inspectors then discovered 4 other puppies hidden in an abandoned carry-on bag. Now, one of the passengers said she expected to be paid $600 for smuggling the dogs in. $600, that's not that much. In the end, both passengers and all 8 dogs headed back to Russia. Yeah, just not worth it for $600. That's just, poor dogs. Well, check it out. We got a QR code. Take your smartphone camera and hover it over this right here. It's going to send you to our social media sites, also our website, NBCPalmSprings.com. We hope you have a great night, and we'll see you back here at 11.